You're going out to fight a war against your friends, against your enemies. So how come it says enemies? How come it says Ki Teitzei that you're going out to war against your enemies? I mean, what's the question? The question is obvious. Who else are you going out to war against? Your buddies, your pals, your friends? Why does it say? Why does it say enemies? Why in heaven's name would the Torah write a word that is absolutely unnecessary? What is Hashem trying to tell me with this word? Yeah? That's what Rashi says. Rashi says, Rashi says, Ken, but there's another pshat. Maybe I saw it somewhere else. I don't remember the pshat already. Someone else says, I forget who it says it, but it's a great thought anyway. It's a great thought anyway. What's the thought? The thought is that if you're going out to war against your enemy, make sure that you don't forget he's your enemy. Make sure that you remember. A Jeep? Ah, you'll have to stay now, sorry. Bitul Torah. Make sure you don't forget that he's your enemy. Treat him like an enemy. Behave towards him like an enemy. Lo tachos eincha alav. Do not have any compassion for him whatsoever. Do not feel sad for him as you're beating him up and dragging him down. It's true. A man goes ahead, a terrorist goes ahead and stabs an Israeli soldier. Now, in normal countries, Israel's not normal, but in normal countries, that's an act of war. By the Geneva Convention. You attack a soldier, that's an act of war. So the soldier, the soldier that wasn't attacked, that soldier got to that terrorist and shot him. Very nice. Then he's on the floor and he's writhing in pain, right? Suffering. And the soldier, the Israeli soldier, decides to put him out of his misery and shoot him. So, of course, that's a very good thing to do. But everyone thinks it's a bad thing to do. I mean, the guy's suffering anyway. The guy deserves to be killed anyway. The guy attacked. When someone's coming to attack you, says the Gemara, Bolar Gecho, go. Get him first. Make sure that you draw first blood. Don't wait for him to hurt you. Adam karov la'atzmo chayecha kodem. You have to be on top of your game in terms of self-preservation. We had a case the other day of a man who someone dug up something about his past. Maybe it happened 25 years ago. And they started spreading rumors about the guy. Lashon hara, horrible gossip. And it's probably true. I mean, all of us have done something we're ashamed of some time before in the past. I can think of a few choice moments of my own. And pretty good moments, too. Yes? Say again?
You shouldn't pity your enemy.
That's right.
So you should attack if you attack.
Right.
So, how do you know, whether it's...
You don't. There's no way to know. In Boba Machteret, a burglar comes to the house. He sneaks in quietly into the basement. but you have a sense that someone's there. So you're going down to shake his hand? I mean, he's in your basement right now, pilfering your goodies. Your gold, your silver, your furniture, whatever you can carry, whatever you can take. It's a burglar in your house right now.
You're kidding.
So what are you going to do? You're going to call the cops?
Yeah.
I think,
Get a gun and shoot him.
Rabbi, the law is like...
Now, you could hurt him if you want to. You might think it's appropriate to shoot him in the leg. That doesn't stop him. Shoot him in the next leg.
Is that like bad though for you? Like, Hashem's not.
There is, listen, no one wants to take life. But once a person acts in a manner in which he poses a danger to another, he is forfeited of his life as of now. In other words, he's a walking dead man. So what all you're doing is putting a nail on the coffin. He deserves death. So you're just making it a little quicker. It's a wonderful thing to do. I say a wonderful thing to do. But it is a requirement. Because you have to preserve yourself. And let's say you're not important to yourself. How about your children? Burglar in the house. You have little babies upstairs. You're going to call the cops, or you're going to, okay, you can call the cops, try 911 if you can. What happens if, let's say someone's in the house, and maybe he's mentally ill and deranged, and you don't want to hurt him, but you don't know that. Maybe someone's in your house, and he's a dangerous man with a gun, and he has no problems killing your babies. You don't know one way or the other. You don't know. A man comes into your house, Pasuk says, and you kill him, you are not penalized or punished. You're not to be punished. You policemen, police the streets. People reach here or reach there. How do they know? They don't need to protect themselves. There is that sense of self-preservation. So I'm saying the same thing here. This guy, someone brings up the fact that he's 25 years ago he did this, that, and that. So of course, I'm not permitted to believe it. And even if it's true, and he says it's true, I don't believe it because you're not allowed to say Lashon Hara by yourself. And I told this man, you know who these guys are that are spreading these rumors. He said, I don't know for sure, but I have a suspicion. So I said to him, you have an obligation to yourself to shut these guys up and call them and tell them, stop spreading rumors about me. You have such an obligation. The sense of a person preserving himself, caring for himself, is no different than this crazy campaign against smoking. Cigarettes are so bad for you. I didn't think so 40 years ago. Okay, maybe they were a little bit difficult there. I mean, cigarettes are no good. Marijuana is wonderful. I'm not understanding. Something's missing here. So let's say we're all this crazy health conscious, and we got to be careful with what we eat, and then the doctor tells us this, and you got to do exercise, and you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to do that. Okay, I've heard that till it's coming out of my ears. Okay, I'm not making fun of it. But at the same time, if that's the case, that you are obligated to take care of yourself physically, and you are obligated to take care of yourself health-wise, and eat properly, not inappropriately, or the inappropriate foods, so that you should be equally careful with anybody that's talking against you, or equally careful with anybody that's dangerous in your house. Either way, you gotta go. You gotta preserve yourself. You gotta take care of yourself. That's an obligation. Torah says, take a look at Parshas Achremos, Kedoshim, Achremos we'll say. Achremos, let's see if my memory is good. Take a look over here at page 650, top of the page. 651. You shall observe my decrees and my laws. In the Hebrew, shmartem et chukotai mishpatai. Asher yaseh otam ha'adam, that a man should do them. And then what does it say afterwards? Look at them with the next two words. V'chai b'hem. Live in this. Live with this. Why is the Torah adding this word live in it? Keep the mitzvahs. Keep the mitzvahs and live with it means v'chai b'hem, says the Gemara. The Gemara explains. It means live to the exclusion of death. V'shalo yamut b'hem. Mitzvahs are here to give you life, promote life, not to cause your death. So let's say it happens that a person is, God forbid, quite ill, or maybe needs to go to the hospital on Shabbat. So do you wait until after Shabbat, or you take him to the hospital right away? Why? Because nefesh, saving your life, is doche kol Torah kula. It pushes aside the whole Torah. Human life is to be preserved. Certain cultures talk about the importance of killing. We talk about the importance of living. Let someone else die for his country. We'll live for ours. Point is that v'chai b'hem, mitzvahs are for life. Mitzvahs are not, if they're burdens, so okay, the burdens, of course it's a burden. Everything in life is a burden. You got to work hard for everything you get. But if it causes you, chas v'shalom, a danger to your life, you take food and you give this guy food on Yom Kippur. What's the question here? Life, v'chai b'hem. So everybody knows that you want to give tzedakah, lamashal. Tzedakah tatzil mimavet. Tzedakah saves you from death. So how much money should you give? $18. If you're rich, you're $1,800. But either way, it's 18 is the multiple. Because 18 is chai. Chedyun is life. And that saves you from death. So basically, that's the idea of Ki Teitzei melchamah levavecha. A person should know when you're out to war, this is war. This is war. It means that it has to be declared war, to be honest. And we learned that in other areas where the Kohen has to, the Melech will, let's say, question and ask just like the president will go to the Congress and ask for a declaration of war, the Melech will go to the Navi, the king will go to the prophet and ask the prophet for direction. Is this from a message from Hashem that we should go to fight? He says yes, yes, no, no. But the point is, once it's a declaration, then you fight all the way. When I was growing up, of course, it was the tragedy of Vietnam. Why was Vietnam such a tragedy? Because Vietnam, you see, I mean, America could have certainly won the war if they wanted to. Boom! That's all. Vietnam's gone. Problem. And we did it in Nagasaki, didn't we? We did it in Hiroshima. Saved American lives. Why didn't we? Notable fact of history. The Vietnam War was never declared by Congress, ever. It was a unilateral move by the President of the United States as Commander-in-Chief. I'm going to ask anybody to agree with me. I'm just going to do it. And 500,000 American lives went down the tubes. What are we talking about here? We're talking about a sense of realizing that you could have saved so many lives if you did what had to be done. There were a dozen hills in Vietnam. A dozen atomic shells, not a full atomic bomb, an atomic shell knocks out those hills where all the Viet Cong was. War's over. I should have been President of the United States. Israelis say, the government says, we don't know what to do with the Palestinian problem. Elect me, I know what to do with it. I know exactly what to do with it. You can't, Lotachos encha alehem, it says it over here in last week's Parsha. It didn't say it last week's Parsha. It says don't be afraid of them. That's what it says. But elsewhere it says, Lo tachos encha alehem, do not have any pity. The only thing you can respect in war is the white flag. That's it. You surrender, you surrender. You don't surrender. I mean, it is quiet now in Israel. Is there peace? No, there's no peace. A state of war exists? For sure it does. Because why? Because no one's waving a white flag. Wave the white flag, and we have peace. That's the only way to do it. We're certainly not going to wave the white flag, I can tell you that. So, the idea of going out to war has to be understood by Shlomo HaMelech in Koheles and Ecclesiastes. What does Shlomo HaMelech write? There's a time for this, a time for that, a time for this, a time for that, right? Time for shalom and a time for milchama. It's a part of life. There are tragedies that go on in life, and we have to accept that. And peace can only reign when there's an absence of milchama, of war. And if there's a war here, and the Melech says to go, and the Navi says to go, and it's been, been so consulted, and the Kohen Gadol has been consulted, with that breastplate on his chest, with the lights going on and off, the stones of the Shvatim, of the tribes, and then the message comes, what to do. You know how it did, you know how it did it? Because each, by the stones, it lit up, right? But because each stone was for each tribe was spelled out. So Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, and so forth, comes out that the message would light up based upon the letter of the word. In other words, if let's say we wanted to say milchama, so wherever there was a mem in one of the tribes, or a lamed and a chet and a mem and a hey, that's how God gave his message. Kind of amazing to live in a situation where you are having such an immediate connection with the Shekhinah, with Hashem. We don't have it. We can't imagine it. Think of it. I mean, imagine living in a world in which you actually have messages from Shemayim that you see nearly every day. The Kohanim see this every day. Amazing. But that's the point of realizing that there's a time for this and a time for that. And the truth is, those anti-war slogans that were, let's say, in the late 60s, early 70s, when I was newly drafted, so those anti-war slogans were accurate, were correct, because there really was no, the declaration of war was unfair. It really was an illegal war and an immoral war, frankly. But if you're attacked and you have to defend your wife and children and family and settlement and community, there's no mercy. I was in a conference back in 2002 in New York where a representative of the Israeli army was giving a talk about the humaneness of the Israeli army, that we went into a certain area, an enclave of terrorists, and we were shooting rubber bullets. Do you remember this?
We still do it.
Who is crazy enough to do that?
We are very
Crazy. That's it, that's smart. Shoot rubber bullets. Then we got 10 casualties, and they're all Jews. Where's the brains? Where's the brains? So, Ki Teitzei it's got to be your enemy. Now, in going out here and treating him like an enemy, and not having any mercy whatsoever, then Hashem will give him over to you in your hands. You will win. Guaranteed. But you got to go out the same Shemayim. Of course, you understand that anybody that's not religious doesn't go to the army. Because anyone who's not religious carries with him a whole sack of averot. So he's going to go into the war with all this sack of sins, you understand, and everyone else will be contaminated by them, and the whole platoon, the whole gadud will be misakana, will be in danger. We need people to go out who are completely religious.
If they're Shlonim, we know that.
Huh?
If they're, I think all the Shlonim, they don't know it.
The Chaylim don't know that.
They don't know it in Israel. So.
They don't know that. There's a lot they don't know in Israel. So Hashem will win. He'll help them when you will win. But then, of course, you have this V'shavita Shivyo. You have captives. What do we do with captives? So generally, captives are either kept as slaves, if they want that option, or they leave. want to go somewhere else. So of course, we've offered the Palestinians many opportunities to leave, but Saudi Arabia doesn't want them. Egypt doesn't want them. Jordan doesn't want them. Syria doesn't want them. Iraq doesn't want them. Lebanon doesn't want them. Well, guess what? I don't want them either. So, what are we doing here? The fact of the matter is that captives are treated in a secondary level of life. In other words, you want to stay here, behave yourself, be nice and civil. You will certainly not have a right to bear any arms, that's for sure. And you certainly will not have any right to have any representation in the Knesset. I mean, that's the most idiotic thing I've ever heard in my whole life, where a country allows its enemy to join. Imagine, here in America, we're going to let communists join Congress. I mean, it gets so psychologically impaired, it's beyond imagination. So, in this mix, you have these captives, in which there is a fair and equitable treatment. You want to leave, goodbye. You want to stay, then you have assumed secondary class citizenship. Meaning what? Meaning you're entitled to good health care, and to good opportunities to make a living, education, everything. But you do not have any political representation whatsoever, ever, and you have no rights to an education that will compromise the security of the state, which simply means we oversee and control their schools and their teachers. And we make total control of what is being taught in their classrooms. And of course, in that sense, their religion is also monitored. If their religion teaches or promotes violence, it's a religion that we outlaw. And so that's the rules of being there. If that's the case, the option really is the captives. But in this captive here, you saw this beautiful woman. How did you find a beautiful woman in the middle of the war?
No, that's how they used to do that.
That's how the Goyim did it. The Goyim would tempt the Jews with beautiful women, in which way they would sacrifice their own women for victory. So all of a sudden, for some reason, you really, as I say there, you will desire her. She's beautiful of form. Boy, this is very graphic here. We'll get better. And let's take a look at this here. And you may take her to yourself for a wife. Yahoo! I mean, so what's going on here? What's going on here? I mean, I don't understand it. We're talking about every single soldier was what? Religious. These are Goyim. These are Goyish women. Now, why are they in beautiful form? Because they're not wearing a whole lot of stuff. I mean, do you think they really, the women out there in the field by the soldiers, the enemies, they were dressed in sneakers, real sneakers, like, real up to here, These were women who knew their task, knew what they're supposed to do. And, even though they were tempting, nevertheless, the religious man's a religious man. I don't get it.
Not in the time of war.
He's not religious in the time of war.
No, but when the Torah knew that, that's what I feel religious of. When you go to war, when you do what you need to pray, first of all, it's protect the shul.
Okay, so.
But they know, the Torah knows that when you go to war, you do what you do. A Yetzer can win sometimes.
So the Yetzer, that's it. In other words,
yeah, everybody.
That's it.
Even if you're religious.
Whatever you do, always remember, man's a man. End of story. That's it. That's the bottom line. The bottom line.
Why are you saying stuff? We're gonna pay for it later.
Sorry. It's true. It's true. Guy's a guy. But the real truth is, you see, is it's more than that. It's deeper. Because you see, he's not really lusting necessarily for physical pleasure. He's in a tough spot. He's in war. He's in danger. He's afraid. He's human. He'd like to have someone to talk to, someone to comfort him, someone nicely to him. Someone would talk nicely to him, tell him what a wonderful guy he is, how handsome you are. I mean, it's more than just a physical issue. And the guy, I mean, with all due respect, it's not meant to be funny. It's truly true that a man probably. What?
The girl gets to know him, forget it, it's over.
Well, but we're not. Wait a second, but we're not going to allow the girl to do that. We got some rules that hold us back. But the point is that the guy is in a situation where he's very, very vulnerable, even if in fact he is religious. He's nevertheless vulnerable. And it's understandable. You're away from home. You're away from mom. You're away from dad. Wait a second. You're married. You're away from your wife. All of a sudden, being away from her, despite the fact that you love her deeply and you're totally committed to her, nevertheless, you're lonely. You're lonely out there. And sure you remember your wife, but sure you remember your kids and your responsibilities. And nevertheless you're tempted. And not really tempted on a physical level, for as much as you are, for as much as the guy's a guy. Nevertheless, you're tempted really on a psychological level. And that's really what these guys are doing in terms of using those women to tempt the guy. They know the guy's weak. He's vulnerable. How can we get him? How can we beat him? How can we win this war? Get those women out there. Hi, honey. Hi, honey. That's it. Right? So at the end of the day, okay, he's vulnerable. And even if he's religious. And he's in a tough spot. But we have to realize, therefore, this evil inclination, this Yetzer Hara, this temptation, is in fact a very normal human experience. Which means what? Which means that the man is required to do what? To safeguard himself. So on a general level, a man would put himself in a situation where he might be vulnerable. He's making a very big crime. That's a mistake. The mistake of putting yourself within the proximity of the woman is not as bad, or maybe it's just as bad, equally as bad, of yourself getting yourself into the situation in the first place. That's why even in the workplace, where we have men with women, with men, again, there's got to be a certain barrier, guideline to keep people safe. The most religious people safe. The most moral people can fall apart. Everyone can. So once we understand our own humanity, how much of rules and strictness is imposed upon us on a self-imposed level, much less the level that the Chazal, the rabbis of the Talmud, would have. So that's separately talk about the prohibition, let's say, of a man not coming close to a woman that is not married to him. So what does that mean? That means basically that there's not allowed to have any physical contact, any touching. So that touching concept is really, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's not such a terrible sin to go and do it all day. In the workforce, it's how are you? Hello. But the point is that little handshake does something to the point where it breaks down a ruling which protects us from falling into this trap. Of course, on the other hand, this guy did not he took all precautions. He went to war. It's not his fault he's in that situation. Sometimes we put ourselves in that situation and we're guilty. Yosef HaTzadik. Tzadik! Yosef! He knows the woman wants him. And he does look in the mirror from time to time. And he does imagine how good looking he is. And he does comb his hair. That's the advantage of old age. He had a comb. And she's tugging at him every day, come on, let's do it. And he's resisting because he's after all a religious person. And then one day, he finds himself alone in the house with her. How did that happen? I'd like to know how that happened. The answer is very simple. Chazal say that was a day, that was a great religious holiday for them. So all of them went to church. Or to the mosque, whatever. She said, I'm not feeling so good today. I'll stay home. Somehow or another he found out. And he went into the house. She's maybe over there, and he's over there busy with work. Right? I mean, man, you're putting yourself in the lion's den. You're really there. I mean, the crime wasn't that he would do something to her. The crime was that he put himself there in the first place. What do you think? What do you expect? Use your head.
Yeah.
You like that? You agree with that?
I like it because it's true.
Well, at the end of the day, guess what happened to Yosef? Yosef was a tzaddik. He resisted her. Let's not be so flawed. Let's not. Yosef resisted her, you understand? You know why?
So there in the first place?
No, he was wrong to get there in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So now, thousands of Goyim have read this story and do not believe it's truth. They do not believe that Yosef resisted her. It's a fake. It's untrue.
Yosef is what?
We all know the story.
Yeah.
We all know that he resisted her.
No, but...
You know that? Don't you know that? Okay, so I'm telling you that thousands, tens of thousands of people have read the Bible and they don't believe it's true. I don't believe it. Nobody can withstand it. Impossible. And you know what? They're right. Temptation's too tough. So how did he stop? He's heroic. He's Herculean. He's Superman. How did he stop? Oh, wait a second. All of a sudden, something welled inside him called in front of him appears a picture of his father. And he runs.
But he still lost. He lost 2 tries.
Wait. Don't steal my story.
I'm sorry.
Oh, boy, that guy steals my lines. Can't believe it.
I don't know why you look at me every time.
So, at the end of the day, he saw this picture of his father and he resisted her. Okay, very good. But then here's the very interesting part of the story. She grabs his jacket. All right? Is that the story?
Yeah.
He leaves the jacket, gets out of there. I mean, if he would have come back for the jacket, then even the father's picture wouldn't have helped. And that's true. Now, what did she do with this jacket? She accused him, threw him in jail, turned the tables. He came after me, throw him in jail. Interesting thought is that he should have thought realistically and intelligently, go back for that coat. Then she's making up the whole story. But he didn't. He didn't go back for the coat. Is the concept, like as I said, had he gone back, he couldn't resist it. It's impossible. It can't be done. It's not human. So you understand, our job on a religious level is to do what? To set up safeguards. Nothing is more important in life in resisting wrongdoing than setting up safeguards. We don't touch, we don't this, we don't that. We are careful. Women have to dress properly. Sneakers, you can't wear above the knee. You can't wear above the elbow, and so forth and so on. Now, other people are, not so careful. And maybe women, they're religious, but a little more moderate, maybe not so Haredi, let's say, and they're not so intense. So they wear maybe sleeves up to here. Is that a great crime? No. Is the person immoral? No. But the person is making a big mistake. What's the person doing wrong? He or she is disregarding the safeguards that have been set up for us. So if she doesn't mess up, someone else will. So we got to be respectful of those safeguards as much as we are respectful of the law itself. Is touching a woman as bad as sleeping with the woman? No. But it never happened, a mistake, that a man was with a woman that he didn't touch first. That's the way it is. So therefore the safeguards have to be respected. Chazal have to be respected. The Talmud has to be respected. These rabbis knew what they were talking about. They were talking about themselves. And these are the great rabbis, the long white beards, the long black coats. And they're talking about themselves. So this story is not an unusual story here, where the guy gets tempted with this beautiful woman. And obviously he was vulnerable, And the safeguards weren't there for him. You know, I always tell the story about that guy who he couldn't resist Pink's hot dogs on the bread. Have you heard that story? Poor guy. You saw it the other day.
No, you said it on Sunday.
I said on Sunday, yeah, I couldn't resist. I told him, go drive this. Stop driving down the bread, you idiot. Go down to a different street. Take a safeguard. Protect yourself. Rosh Hashanah is coming. What's a good safeguard for Rosh Hashanah? Prepare for now. Every day should be with the davening now, what's stuck in now. There's a safeguard to guarantee a good new year, to guarantee a productive Rosh Hashanah, to guarantee a Rosh Hashanah that will be so powerful that when you're praying in the synagogue, the prayers will ricochet off the walls. And the Almighty will hear them and see the sincerity. You see, and feel the love that emanates out of your heart. But in order to get that way, you got to get into the zone. You got to get moving. Salichot, 5:15, right? Don't invite me. So that's the point here. The safeguards, this whole story is about safeguards. That's what it is. Okay. So now he gets the woman, and he's stuck. He falls into a bad pattern. And by the way, Itai is right. The Yosef HaTzadik, because of the intensity of the drive of doing the wrong thing, so he lost 10 drops of sperm that came out of his fingers, and those 10 drops were supposed to be 10 different children. That would have been 10 different tribes plus the 2 that he had. He was supposed to have 12 tribes. Why was he supposed to have 12? Because his father had 12. And Yosef was exactly like his father and supposed to be like his father. So that didn't work out. Okay. But you understand there's always that residue of error that's going to happen. Something's going to mess up. So what happens? Now, he's got this woman and they're going to do it. So the Torah says you do not have to get rid of her. You do not have to withstand her. You do not have to refrain from her. You can have her. What? She's not Jewish. She's probably a harlot. She's a woman, this, that, and that. You're allowed to have her. You had a situation, you had an urge, you were in the army, you felt bad, you were alone, this and that. Torah understands, you're going to have her. What about your wife? Okay, your wife, we'll explain it to her. That's what it's saying. That's what it's saying.
Yeah, but the Torah...
Yeah, but...
No, because the Torah also says that it's really not recommended.
What?
It's really not recommended to do it, even though the Torah says to do it.
I don't recommend it, but...
No, but I understand,
but if you gotta do it, you gotta do it, you know?
No.
Again, the point is that the Torah seems to indicate that it's okay. But then the Torah says, on conditions. We want some more safeguards in there. We'll let you take her, but here's what you gotta do. Take a look at verse 12. Take her to your house and shave her head and cut her nails. Let her nails grow. Right? And she shall remove the garment of her captivity. The garment of captivity obviously is some sort of sexually provoking garment. Right? And let her sit in, and she should get something else to wear that's ugly, let's say, or disgusting, and sit in your house and weep for her mother and father for a full month. Now she's weeping. He comes to approach her. I hate you. He comes to approach her. You disgust me. Wait a second. You're supposed to care for me and love me and comfort me. You sicken me. That's what she's supposed to do. Now, she's going to end up doing that anyway. We know that. She's a captive now. She's miserable, right? She thought that she wouldn't be a captive, that she'd do whatever she had to do, and then her people would come and redeem her. Didn't happen that way. Now, she's stuck with this guy, right? Whom she can't stand. So, therefore, she is crying. Take me home to my mother and my father. Get me out of here. Isn't it a very, very good situation? And it's got to be for a full 30 days. And then you may go to her and you may live with her, and she's going to be a wife for you, and a girlfriend for you, or whatever else you want. In other words, if you still want her after all this, you can have her. What are these safeguards? These safeguards are, she's not going to be that desirable after all this is happening. So the Torah has a psychological idea of suggesting the following. I'm not going to say it's forbidden, but I'm going to give you conditions so bad and so problematic that at the end of the day, you ain't going to want it. Now, frankly, if you think about it, that's a brilliant maneuver, not on the Torah's part. It's a brilliant maneuver for parents. What? You want a candy? Okay. You want a candy, right? Here's 50. Eat every one of them. Get a big bellyache. And you'll learn. You want a candy? Good. Let's go to the dentist after that.
But there are kids that don't learn.
You want candy?
They still want more.
Right? But you got to give, in other words, there has to be the sense of consequence. Because at the end of the day, even if you didn't do this to the woman, she would resent you anyway. Because of the circumstances in which you took her, which were less than honorable, less than respectful, less than decent. Not to mention
The first wife.
right, not to mention the first wife. Now, we're going to talk about that first wife in just a minute. We're going to talk about
I
her.
remember the shear that you gave last year.
You hear what I say?
Well, why all of this?
Okay, good. Okay, none of us steals my lines. It's amazing you're married. You're both married. I can't believe it. So, now, okay, however, one more rule is important to remember. Look at the last verse 14. If you don't want her at the end of this, which we're assuming you won't, then you may send her free. But do not think you have control over her at all. You can't sell her. You can't get money for her. You can't in any way abuse her because you've already made her suffer. So let's think about all the different people involved. The man himself, which we talked about, in terms of his own urges and in terms of the safeguards he's responsible for. The girl herself and the fact that she is being used and abused. She's a boy, whatever. Nevertheless, she's a human being. She's a person. And of course, and the realization that she has her freedom after you've already abused her enough. And finally, let's talk about the wife. So we go to the next parsha, and we say the following. A man has two wives. Now, we have always taught over and over again the rule called juxtaposition. What's juxtaposition? Why smichut parshiot? Why does one parsha follow another? Why does the parsha of two wives follow the parsha of this story of the beautiful woman? And the answer is because if Itaka does marry her and Itaka does have two wives, you're going to find out that one of these wives is loved and the other one is hated. And they have children. He has children from both. And the firstborn comes from the hated one. He gets priority. Tough luck on you because it doesn't matter whether you hate her or not. And you came to hate her anyway, but it doesn't matter. You still have an obligation to her and to her offspring and to her children and to her child. So therefore, it's pretty much you can assume that if a man and a woman consorted in this matter, at the end of the day, she's going to hate it. And it's pretty much assumed, furthermore, that if you are married, right, you're going to have a lot of trouble in shalom bayit at home. Because if you don't hate her, your wife's going to hate her. So, this is not a smart move, you understand, for establishing domestic bliss.
And your kids also will be...
Well, let's find out about that. Stealing the next line. So, yeah, what?
So, if he has an obligation to the hated wife's child,
Right.
firstborn,
Right.
he also has some sort of obligation to the hated wife.
Sure, he's got to take care of her, protect her, so, provide for her. I mean, if she's not being provided for properly on a financial level, she'll go straight to the court, straight to the Beis Din. Hey, then what's this guy do?
That's part of her being his wife, regardless.
Well, no, because you see, because even though he's got a wife and he's got 2 wives and 2 wifely obligations, which is possible, though it's quite difficult. But unless he's rich, I mean, he's Rockefeller, whatever. But the point is that he can't all of a sudden make her less than the other wife. It has to be treated equally, even though she's making him miserable. And believe me, when a woman wants to make you miserable, she can make you miserable. Believe me, she runs the show.
One more question.
Can't he divorce her?
No, he's stuck with her.
What?
Given the circumstances, the way what he go? Had he let her go earlier, before at the end of 30 days, fine, then she's free. But now he's stuck with her. You see. Now she wants a divorce. That's her business. But I said she probably would not want the divorce. Why wouldn't she want the divorce?
She's not
So he was married to both of them at the same time?
Yeah.
Oh my God. This just got complicated.
She doesn't believe
And she thought she was going to a lesson in the Torah today.
I know.
Here I am. It's X-rated, the whole thing here. I mean, again, he's married to 2 wives,
Yeah.
and he has obligations to both. But again, why wouldn't she want to get divorced?
Why?
It's not in her best interest.
Exactly.
Then she doesn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah, she doesn't have.
No Jew's gonna marry her.
She's being
Why?
taken care of.
What?
She's being taken
No,
care
but-
of.
Right. Why would she want? And in the meantime, she makes sure,
Then he's miserable.
right? And you better treat my kids good.
Let's stop.
And I'm in control here. Remember that.
Let's stop talking about the captive woman who became the wife. Let's go back to the first parsha. How come they don't mention anything about the captive men?
What about him?
What did they do with them? Did they take them prisoners or did they kill them?
Who? Oh, you mean the Jews?
No, the captain.
Boy captives.
Yeah, well, going male captive.
There is none. One killed them.
No, not Dafka. Not Dafka, not necessarily, as I said earlier. They can become Ger Toshavim. They can become, if they wish to convert, maybe become Jewish, that's their choice. But they have to go through the process. And if not, they become Ger Toshav. No, he has the option of a Ger. What's the option of a Ger Toshav? To live in the country, to get full financial opportunity, to get full educational opportunity, become whatever you want to be. You want to become an egg driver, become an egg driver.
But you can't buy a house.
No, he can't. That's true. He can't buy a house. And you know why he can't buy a house?
Kids for Jews. What do you mean?
Why? Because if he buys a house or a piece of property, right, he can bequeath it to his children. And a non-Jew has no right to bequeath anything of Eretz Israel to anything beyond himself. He can't give it over. So obviously, if you want to listen, I'm not considered. I wouldn't impose the Palestinians should be thrown out of Israel. Of course, but I don't. Wait, hold that back. Of course, I suggested they should be thrown out, but they should also be given an opportunity to stay if they behave themselves and understand they have no representation, no political rights, purely an opportunity to live. Listen, I was in Eretz Israel. I took 50 cabs. Half of them were Arabs.
Right.
How can you tell an Arab cab driver from an Israeli driver?
Seriously now?
Yeah.
They're the luckiest Arabs in the world. Because
No doubt about it. But how can you tell a difference? So if you're smart, I shouldn't say that smart, but if you're perceptive, you listen clearly to their Hebrew. They're all speaking fluent Hebrew. Terrific Hebrew.
No, but you can tell
But you can hear in the accent, in the kiftah, a certain little butteriness.
You know how you recognize Arabic? You give them to say a word with pay.
Hey,
Because they can't say pay.
they can't. Is that true?
No, beta.
Oh, that's good. That's a good thing to learn.
Please say beta, you will say beta.
They will say that.
They
Okay.
can't say pay.
There's a lesson for today. Bottom line is that they can live in peace if they want to. If not, then we offer them to get out. If you don't want to get out, they will kill you. I mean, so that's what we. That's what
Today in Israel, non-Jews cannot own property in Israel?
they shouldn't. If they do, it's a wrong thing. Most Arabs in Israel live in their own communities. And I don't know of any mixed community in Israel whatsoever. Maybe a few lefties. Maybe a few leftists. Yeah, a few maniacs here and there. But by and large, Giovanni says there's no such thing. I mean, Arabs live with Arabs, and they're happy for the most part. But I have another rule. It's called Kol mi shebiyado limchot ve'enamoche nitfas ba'avono. Anybody that has the opportunity to protest against wrongdoing and doesn't do so is capable of the same wrongdoing. If an Arab cannot condemn terrorism, in my book, he's a terrorist. That's it. So again, what I'm trying to say is that we do have worries of dealing with the situation, which may sound humane, not depending on how leftist you are. But the reality is that these are directions that we didn't make up. This is what the Torah says. This is what Hashem said. This is the ultimate improper, humane morality. This particular case of the woman was only issued in terms of how do people handle the challenge of the evil temptation in life. That's what it's all about. How do we handle our temptations? Someone yelled at me, someone screamed at me, someone cursed me, and I want to blast this guy, may the kingdom come. And the question is, can I hold back my temper? And the question is, can I handle the temptation? I am so angry, and I am so upset, and I want to curse this guy, and I got a mouthful. And the question is, can I hold back? That's what this lesson's all about. The lesson is all about how do you handle it. And the answer is, of course, safeguards. Because most humans can't really. It's hard. If someone really, tore you down, who's going to make himself into a piece of rug? You let someone step all over you that way. So you have to stay out of harm's way. Don't go near that person. Safeguards. That's the name of the game here. Because this is what's going to happen. You go after that woman, she's going to end up hating you. Worse than that. Look what happens next. 18. You have a son, a child that is wayward and rebellious. Ben sorer moreh. He leaves the derech. He leaves the path. He leaves the path of Torah. He leaves the path of mitzvot. He leaves Hashem. And he becomes rebellious and uncontrollable. And then if Shemeh b'kol aviv v'kol imo, he just doesn't listen. You can't get this guy to listen. He's 6, he's 8, he's 10, he's 12, he's 15, and you can't get him to listen. He's really doing everything possible to destroy family life and destroy him as well, destroy himself as well. But we're going to learn that this rule only applies to a child before the bar mitzvah. Now, take this child. Your parents are required to take the child and discipline him. And if that doesn't work, take him to the elders of the city. Say to the elders, his son is wayward, he's a glutton, he's a drunkard, and the men shall pelt him with stones and kill him. Little child, 12 years old. What's happening here? What's happening here is that without proper instruction, without proper discipline, a child can go berserk. Furthermore, why did he get the proper discipline? Why did he get the proper education? Because he was brought up in a home where his father had taken his mother in a highly inappropriate and disrespectful manner. He was born of a marriage that was he hates his father hates his mother hates his father. And he's born into a situation of there's no shalom bayit and there's 2 wives and it's just a crazy household.
So it was the first sin that caused all this wrong.
I mean, the original guy in the first place.
Yeah.
But that's the whole idea. The whole idea is, do you see the pebble in the pond?
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. One follows the other. You see that? What the Torah is teaching you is there is consequences to your action. Hey, that's the case. Think twice. Think twice before you make a dumb mistake. That's monumental. That'll affect you for the rest of your life. It's scary. Now understand, at the end of the day, what's amazing is that the child is killed. Because the child has become, and the worst part of the child was not that he was rebellious, not that he didn't keep Shabbos, not that he went and did all crazy things that got thrown into prison. You know what he did? It was the worst crime. He was a drunkard and a, what's it called there? And a glutton. In other words, he became addicted to physical pleasures. There's drug addiction, there's alcohol, there's sex, there's gambling, there's all sorts of addictions in the world. We're talking about someone who's totally addicted. He became wild, they couldn't control him. When you have an addiction, I'm so sorry.
Volkswagen Atlas?
Volkswagen. Yours? You guess? What makes you so sure? You'll find out. Okay, you'll find out.
Rabbi,
What?
When you talk about addiction, aren't you talking about an older person, not a 12-year-old or 11-year-old?
Well, the truth is that the addictions can become at early ages, particularly if there's exposure to it. You see, if you're driving down the street and you see a big poster that says, marijuana, available, hibiscus, what do they call it? Hibiscus?
What is hibiscus?
What do they call them?
Hibiscus is a plant.
Yeah, is that where it comes from?
No. Marijuana.
I don't know, whatever I say. I don't know what these signs mean.
Hemp. No.
Hemp. Okay. Anyway, so there's a big sign there. Marijuana is available. Come on in. You think they're gonna, you know, a guy comes into the store and he's 16 years old, he's 18 years old, and he says, "Can I have a six-pack? A beer?" Guy says, "I want to ID." So the kid is 18 years old. He's got no ID, obviously. Oh, I forgot it. Can you give it to me anyway? Oh, sorry. The law's the law. If you're not 21, you're not 21. Guy turns around to me. I'm in the store. He says, "Mister, would you buy me a six-pack of beer?" Personally, I don't care. But the fact of the matter is that he couldn't get it. He's, no, that's his problem, not mine. And I mean, I've been drinking beer since I'm 10. I mean, I don't get the problem. But the point is, everybody's so worried about ID for cigarettes and ID for beer, but you don't have to ID for the marijuana. A 10-year-old can get in there and have, woo! You know, who can tell me the bracha, who can tell me the prayer that you make for marijuana? No? Tfilat HaDerech. You're going on a trip. You're tripping out. The traveler's prayer. Before the marijuana, it's a traveler's prayer. That's what it is. Go on a trip. One last PS. I should say there's one last PS, but before I do say it, I want to impress upon people the tragedy of addiction to the extent where you're really out of control. And then you're really dead. Even if when you get the stones pelted at you, you're dead. If you can't control the addiction, you're finished. You're a dead person. The whole of life is all about control. What's interesting is that these three laws, the Talmud says, never happened. Furthermore, the Talmud says, these three laws will never happen. So of course the question arises, so what are we learning this for? And of course the answer is obvious. The lessons of safeguarding, of handling temptation, of dealing with the Yetzer Hara. They're safeguards of being able to understand our vulnerability and our humanity, and the importance of being strict on these matters and being able to resist and make the right choices is essential as guidance for life. So these two things actually never did happen. But the lessons are eternal. The lessons are absolutely, imperatively relevant for everybody. All three. The running theme of making a mistake that has a monumental consequence because you didn't safeguard properly. Which is the thrust of the whole of all three passages, of all three paragraphs. Do you follow? Starting from not being able to control yourself from the woman, to the hatred at home, to the rebellious child. Children born into this kind of environment are almost predestined for tragedy. I mean, you grow up in a bad neighborhood in LA, you're going to join a gang.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's just what happens. Every once in a while, maybe you have a kid that's smart enough to get the bleep out of there. But get the bleep out. You got it. No problem. So the idea of her crying for her parents for 30 days, the rabbis want to teach, is a reference to the month of Elul. During the month of Elul, this month of preparation for the High Holy Days, which we talked about extensively on Sunday, and I'm going to test people on it, by the way, Sunday. I hope you bring all your papers back. I'm going to test you on what we learned. And add more to it in terms of the holidays. Oh, by the way, Sunday's 9:30. Time change, very important. 9:30. I have to be at a bris at 11:30. So 9:30 is the time for class on Sunday. This idea of preparation, preparing for the High Holy Days and for Rosh Hashanah, those critical days of the year. I mean, these days we should be crying for mom and dad, for our Father in heaven, crying for help and for guidance and direction and hope. And what else can I do to do another mitzvah, to find another mitzvah to do, to grab an opportunity to try to do something extra, more than just a regular. People say extra tehillim, psalms. People give extra tzedakah. People do more learning. Whatever it is that's possible to be done, that's what people should be doing during the month of Elul. That's basically this parsha of Ki Teitzei, at least the beginning of it anyway. The rest of it deals with a lot of various laws that are fascinating and interesting in themselves. Touch upon one law. The law that you're not permitted to take the baby birds away from a mother bird unless you send the mother bird away first. This law teaches that if you do, you cause the mother bird pain. And you should never cause a parent pain. Even an animal parent feels for their young. And if you want to take those baby chicks, you may. But you are obligated to send the mother bird away first. Shalech t'shalachtaim. Torah says if you will do this, you'll have a reward. And it's interesting, Torah doesn't always talk about the specific reward immediately. The general idea is you do the right thing, you get rewarded. You don't, you get punished. Here we're specific. And the rule is, the specific reward is, v'harachta yomim, you're going to have a long life. What's interesting about that is that there's only one other mitzvah in the Torah that discusses an immediate reward and specifies. And that's the mitzvah of honoring your mother and your father. Keep it out there. Either way, or both mitzvahs, are promised long life. So obviously, the thing makes sense, measure for measure. At the end of the day, no matter what your mother or father were or are, good, bad, indifferent, okay, not so okay, at least you owe them, they gave you life. But on the other hand, you may not like being alive. So you hate yourself, you hate your life, and you hate your parents. But
Go
if...
to a mountain?
What?
Go to a mountain and hide?
Yeah, go to a mountain and jump. Go to a mountain and jump. But on the other hand, if you at least appreciate the beauty of being alive, then you gotta appreciate your parents. If that's the case, then you do appreciate your parents, you do appreciate the gift of life. So God says, fine, you like life, give you more of it, and have a long life. Measure for measure. Be done, connected, be done. You like living? Give you more of it. How do I know you like living? Because you're so appreciative of your parents. But another nakuda, another point, is the idea that appreciating parents is such a monumental thing in Hashem's eyes that that's where he equates your appreciation of Him. And the Gemara says there are three partners in the creation of a human being: mother, father, and Hashem. And they're all three equal. If you honor your mother, you honor your father. You honor your father, you honor Hashem. If you dispute the honor of one of them, you dispute the honor of all of them. If you can disgrace your father, you disgrace Hashem. The sense, of course, is that the expression on the positive level of appreciation is so powerful that it grants not only yourself long life, but it grants them long life too. In other words, your parent will live longer because you're good to them and better for them and kinder to them. And you lengthen their lives by virtue of what you're doing for them, besides the fact that you gain, let's say, a benefit for your own life. Yeah.
However, I remember you saying that if you have a parent that's
Abusive, right.
that you still can't slander them
Right.
or embarrass them, but
Right.
you have no obligation.
That's correct. That's correct. Because there are generally two requirements. One is the proactive one, of being there for them, helping them, doing for them, and so forth. Like I argue with my mother, she shouldn't be well all the time. Mom, let me drive. No, I want to drive. Okay. I want to drive because I got a mitzvah.
Yeah.
She wants to drive because she enjoys driving. So I got a mitzvah anyway. So let her drive. But the idea is that you should do for them whatever you can.
So if you can't do it, then just leave them alone, and that's still good.
Yeah, but if, let's say, a parent is abusive, then you're not obligated to go there and be there for them and help them. You're not. You're not even obligated to pay someone to do it. But you are obligated not to harm them, insult them, curse them, yell at them, dispute them. In fact, you can't even agree with them.
Yeah.
Because why? Because imagine your father tells you, that's a very important rule, and you say, yeah, you're right, that's a good one, I like that one. As if your father needs your agreement, and your father needs your support in the matter. Oh, that's a good one, Dad, that's a good one. Yeah, that one's no good, but that one's good. That's disrespectful. So our levels, again, of respect and disrespect are, again, very extreme. And that's where the safeguards come in. And once again, it's rabbinic descriptions of how these things operate. So being loyal to the laws of the rabbis and all their extreme expressions is really a magnificent piece of advice on how to keep the Torah. If we were to be that careful with all the rabbinic laws, I'm sure we'd hardly ever break a Torah law. Think of that. So that's this week's parasha. As we said, we have 2 weeks to go to Rosh Hashanah. Please make sure you have a beautiful Shabbat. Make sure you're in Shul Shabbat. Sunday, 9:30. We'll talk more about the preparation for the holidays. Thank you all for coming.